Welcome to the Encouragement Conquers All podcast with Justin Fatica, the podcast for people who want to design their life, their mission, and be filled with purpose through encouragement. Now, here's your host, Justin.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back again to the Encouragement Conquers All podcast, where we have guests to inspire you in 6 areas in your life, to inspire your family life, to be able to inspire you in your financial life and your career, to be able to inspire your spiritual life, to be inspire your social life on how you can give back to others or help you in your mental life, getting mental stability and being able to focus. And I can tell you that we have an unbelievable guest. Now, if you don't know where to find us, you can find all our podcasts on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. You can find it on any of the genres you can find it on. And make sure to comment below if you have any questions for our guests, and make sure to subscribe on YouTube, and so you can get every single podcast you need. It will help you. It will build you up. It will help you become a more encouraging person. This is about encouragement, that we believe encouragement conquers all. Right now in our society, they need that more than ever. And we bring on guests that can encourage you in a way that is unique, diverse, from all different genres. So I can't wait to have our guests on, who you're going to be excited about. I can tell you this guest, JP Nerbun, a true luminary in the world of leadership and sports counseling. JP actually is a best-selling author of Calling Up, Discovering Your Journey to Transformational Leadership, and the visionary behind the TOC Culture Consulting project. It's renowned for global sports consulting. He's consulted with different NBA and different lacrosse professional teams, as well as, collegiate. He is a visionary in itself, and he has an impressive track record. He has helped shape the leadership landscape of institutions like Stanford and Harvard. In 2022, JP released his groundbreaking book, The Culture System, providing a framework of the cultivating team culture. But his influence doesn't stop there. He has also launched the Culture System online training platform, making coach education more accessible than ever. Join us as we come together, JP and myself, to help you, to encourage the world, to make a difference in the world. And let's build a winning team culture with Big JP. All right, Big JP, come on here. What do you got for us today? You ready to encourage some people today? That's what I'm ready to do.
I appreciate it, Justin. No, I'm super excited and encouraged by your intro there.
No, you got to care about people. Encouragement's all about knowing who people are, and then also what they do and what you're doing matters. So let our guests, let anybody who's listening in know what's really on your heart and what are you putting all your energy into, and help them understand what the culture system is, as well as what your consulting company does.
Yeah, I mean, I was a basketball coach for over 10 years, and 9 years into that journey, I had a watershed moment of kind of hitting rock bottom in many aspects of my leadership, and went on a journey to transform myself as a leader so that I could improve the culture that I was creating and the environment that I was creating for the athletes that I was working with. And I was fortunate to have a guy named Jamie Gilbert step into my life, and this guy coached me up to be a better leader. And that set me off on this journey where I've been writing and podcasting and just learning about leadership, and fortunate enough to actually step into actually coaching other leaders, and primarily in sports. That's my main area of coaching leaders. So I've been coaching, like you said, leaders from youth level all the way to the pros, and that's my passion. That's my heart. I really feel like coaches need someone to walk the journey with them, to help them to take different perspectives, to help them to realize the person that they want to be, the leader they want to be. And with that, I also do some consulting. The Culture System is a framework that I've created based on, just all the amazing ideas that I've stolen from other great organizations and leaders, and how we brought it together in a way that's seamless, practical, and applicable for any coach out there. And so I help coaches to implement that system, that framework, to create and sustain an extraordinary culture that, in the day, is going to transform lives, going to improve performance.
Yeah, and so I'm all about everybody should have 6 encouragement coaches. All right, we need people to encourage us in all walks of our life, and you're going to be an encouragement coach today to encourage everybody on here to build them up. And I want to talk about this Jamie guy. All right, let's first get to this. I mean, unbelievable. I love that you were authentic enough to say, look, I was at rock bottom. Because I think to be a great coach, you need to be able to actively listen, actively learn, actively grow. And what did Jamie do for you? What are some specific things? Because there might be somebody who's listening in right now going, man, I'm in rock bottom, or I need some encouragement. What are some areas that he helped you with?
Yeah. Well, so there's 3 areas of information. I think you categorize all information in 3 things: things that we know, things we know we don't know, and things we don't know we don't know. And I went to Jamie because I felt I was going to him because my culture was struggling and I didn't know how to fix it. Um, but what Jamie helped me was realize some of the things that I didn't know that I didn't know. And one of those big truths was that the biggest failure, leadership failure in our culture, wasn't my players, wasn't my captains, it was me. I had a large amount of responsibility in the culture that I was struggling with. And yet I did not see myself as part of the problem. I saw the society, I saw the parents, I saw the athletes, and the community, the school as the problem. And so Jamie did that in a way that wasn't calling me out. He called me up. He he was an advocate. He believed in me. He built that relationship. But then he was able to, sometimes just by asking questions or sharing what he was observing, and sharing those observations and asking those questions, he was able to help me to realize those things, that truth, right? That I was getting in the way. I was the thing that was getting in the way of creating the culture that I wanted.
And I think in our society right now, we have to really learn that we can't control what others are doing. The only thing we can control is who we need to forgive. The only thing we can control is who we need to love, who we need to believe in. And it's similar to what the Johari window. I'm sure you've seen that. Joe and Harry went to the bar, 2 psychologists, and they were dealing with all these people, and they're like, hey, hey, who's the clients you're dealing with? And he said the same thing you said. The first client we're dealing with somebody, he knows this, and this. Yeah, but he doesn't know this about himself. So they put like a square, they got a napkin out and they put a square together, and they put exactly what you just said. They put the things you know, the things you don't know, the things they said. The third aspect was things others know about you that you don't know about yourself. And then they
Mhm.
said the other fourth window is what none of us know, the unknown. And that's what you're saying in personal development and growth in our life, is that we really need to dive into it. And I think people need to dive into it. What was one area that like you really needed to grow in that you think you didn't realize that could help some of our listeners go, man, maybe I didn't realize that.
Mm. Yeah, I want to jump to so many. One was just that I
That's
was,
life. That's like all of us.
yeah. One was that, the way that I was behaving on the sidelines, my emotional energy, the way that I was reacting to the scoreboard, to player mistakes, to um, different things like that. Like my reactions, while I said, "Well, that's my style of coaching. That's my personality. That's my passion," like that was a really limiting belief. And so my identity wasn't just caught up in the scoreboard. My identity and my who I saw myself was very rigid, and I didn't start to see how I wasn't just, it wasn't just this style, this personality. It can be flexible, it can mold. And so I learned to be more flexible as a leader, to work on my emotions and actually put the work in on myself. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that in leadership, we're oftentimes really focused on others and what they need to do to improve. And especially in coaching, I'm coaching these athletes to
Yep.
be better people, better humans, better. But what am and so I'm giving them feedback, but who's giving us feedback all the time? And And what are the things that I'm doing to train the skills to be effective as a leader? Skills of personal regulation, skills of reflection, skills of, being able to be a better decision maker, skills of being able to take multiple perspectives, conflict management skills, like all these skills to be an effective leader. Those things can be trained with intentionality. And I wasn't doing any of that. I wasn't training myself to be a better leader. I wasn't even giving it much thought. I was thinking about everybody else and what they needed to do to be better.
Yeah, and a lot of our guests who we have on, they spend an hour at least a day, or half an hour, like really reflecting. For some of them, it's prayer. For some of them, it's their own meditation style. But is that something that you had to do in your life? Get time in your day to really reflect and think about life. Is that something you need to do daily? And what do you do during that time? If you do you need reflective time each day?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that Jamie really pushed me in, was cultivating habits around journaling. I didn't pick up meditation until about 4 years ago.
Okay.
But journaling post games, post, at the end of the day, trying to journal more in the morning. And to say that I picked it up and was like 100% from day one would be a lie. That was not
Yeah.
it. But, I go back to those journals from 8 years ago, and they're kind of, hit and miss here and there. And now I probably have missed maybe 2, 3 days a year, typically on a journal. Meditate, maybe I miss, 10, 15. I don't know, not many. I keep track of it in my habit tracker. I don't remember what I actually put down for how many days I hit last year, but it was pretty much every day. And sometimes that's 5 minutes, sometimes that's 20 minutes. I work out most days, exercise, even like a off day to recovery. I'm doing a lot of stretching, flexibility, going for walks, stuff like that. Trying to spend time out in nature daily. So I have my cocktail of things that work for me, and I'm very privileged in the sense that I work for myself, and so I'm,
Yeah.
and I have challenges too. I won't discredit my discipline. I've also got 3 small kids, so I
Oh,
got
wow.
a lot of
How old
reasons
are
I
they?
could.
How old are they?
8, 6, and 3. So there's a lot of reasons I could not choose to work out or not do the meditation, but I still find time for it. So yeah, those are the things I've cultivated over the last 8 years, is some of those disciplines.
Well, how is that encouraged? How has journaling and meditation encouraged you in your life? How is that like giving you? Why do you consistently go back? I mean, if you're doing it, 90% of the time, it seems like, why do you keep going back to that? It must be working.
Yeah, I have a unique way of journaling. I actually use the Clear Habits Journal that James Clear released, and I find it very encouraging to say, "Hey, here's 12 to 15 things I'm trying to do every day, or trying to do at least every few days." And so it's really encouraging when even you have a bad day, lose your temper with your kids, or you're not present with them, or you're short with someone, or just things don't go well and you're not getting the results that you want. You don't you score, your team doesn't win, you don't get the sales, you don't make the money that you, whatever it is, right? You have a bad day, whatever that is for you, but you can still back and be like, well, look what I did do. Or look back on your success, and I did show up, I did meditate, I did do my prayer, I did do my journal, I did, you know okay, I missed a few things here, but let's go get them tomorrow. And so just being able to look back on that, as well as I have a few reflection, journaling prompts that I go to, reflect on my values. What do they need to, how can I bring them into today? I reflect back on how I did bring them into the day. So just, things like that, those journaling prompts, which I can share more on that later, but like those are very encouraging for me because, we're always finding something that we did well. And we're always trying to find something could do better. And something we learned. And then it's very action oriented. So how can I bring my best self into the day? So that's been helpful for just building that in, because you see progress. You always, okay, you had a bad day, well, what can I do next? What's the next step, what's the next day? And you don't linger in those things.
Yeah, what I like to do is go back to who we are. So we have 8 principles in the Encouragement Conquers All podcast, and the first principle is encourage the who. So like if I'd ask you a question, JP, who are you? Like, who are you? We know what you do. You're consulting. You're setting up. Working with teams and helping them to grow as a team. And I look at team like what you're doing. People do for families, or you can do for your family life. But who are you? How would you answer that question?
Yeah. So for me, I would say, well, it's who I am I today and who am I wanting to become. And that's kind of how I like to say, who am I today?
Yeah.
Recognizing that we grow, and I'm not the person I was, 5 years ago. I'm not going to be I will not be the same person 5 years from now. Hopefully not even tomorrow, right? I'm trying to grow into that. And I think it's really important that um, we try to identify in many different things. I'm not just a coach. I'm not just a dad. I'm not just, a business owner. I'm not just, a guy that loves to run ultra marathons or a guy that journals. Right? Like I
Yep.
see, I recognize that there are many different. I've once heard the metaphor of like having different rooms, right? So there's different rooms within my identity there, and so having that, so I could lose. I mean, I could lose my family and something tragic tomorrow, and if I lose that part of myself, right? Do I have other things that I can lean on, right? And faith being an important one of that, right? So that's an important aspect of my identity and central and core to that. But so I would say I'm multifaceted, but I also, who am I today? I strive to be someone that's curious, someone that's loving, someone that's disciplined, and someone that's grateful. Those are my 4 core values. And I'm just trying to be more of those 4 things every
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
day.
Say those again. I like those. Say those again.
Curiosity, discipline, love, and gratitude.
Yeah. So what you've probably done is you've reflected a lot about all the different values that are out there. And I think that's what people need to do. They need to reflect about who they are. What are the values that are really core to the essential identity of who you are as a person? And every one of us, what I love, I had a guest on recently, and he said I was 50 something years old. And the reason I asked you that question, who you are, is this one of his leaders, one of his coaches, encouragement coaches, we'd call, said, "Well, who are you? What's your mission in life?" And he said his business mission statement. And then this encouragement coach said, "No, no, no, that's your business mission statement. Who are you? What's your mission in life?" And he started like getting choked up because he was flabbergasted. He's 50 something years old, a leader within training teams and doing similar to what you're doing, JP. And he said, "I didn't know. I didn't have an answer." And I think a lot of people don't think about, they think about what they're doing, but they don't think about who they are, and
Mhm.
who you are never ends. You know what I mean? Like anything that you live by that ends. Like for me, who I am, coaching is not for me. Coaching is not who I am. It's just what I do. But me, like you saying, because you're on target, JP, who I am is energetic, and the energy I've given people, they're never going to forget. That's going to be with them forever, right?
Mhm.
My faith is who I am because I believe in eternity and that there is eternity and that we can live forever. So that never ends. So who I am is somebody of faith. So, and who I am is compassionate and empathetic. Like that's where I'm going to,
Mhm.
if somebody shares their dad died, I'm going to cry with them, and at least they're going to see that on their heart. So you're on to something. I want to get into what you're doing, but I'm just so thankful you know who you are and you're challenging others to do that. I'm sure you've seen that in my own coaching ranks. I've coached 10 years or whatever, and that's been the biggest challenge. That people are so concerned about success that they forget about who they are and how they treat people as the most success. So how do
Mhm.
you help teams and culture? I'm sure that's what you do. You help really cultivate team culture and help them to define that. So share with me. I'm a coach. You're going to bring me in and help our team out. We're team amazing. I'm going to be your client right now, and you're going to help me be the best team we could ever be and get the most out of our players. So help us out.
I used to do this the backwards way. I used to go in and you'd say, "Hey, I need help with my team," and I would go in and try to do a workshop and help your team out, and it doesn't work. It doesn't mean that there's no value in that, but you laid a foundation, and the foundation is my relationship with the leader of the team, the head coach, in a sports context. So it's about me and you getting to know each other on a personal level, and then really to do a few assessments, 360 feedback, really to try to understand, what's really going on, get some data points, get some different people's different perspectives, have you take an intake form, there we would set some objectives, what that, you really wanted to achieve in our time together, what was important to you, things within the culture, but also things within your own leadership and potentially things within your own life. From those objectives, then typically I work with clients on a biweekly basis where we're hopping on calls and we are coming in there and intentionally reflecting on, some things downstream, like things that are coming up in the leadership and the team. But we try to get upstream as much as we can with the culture and with their own development. So with the culture, it's implementing different systems in place, like a leadership council group. It's ways of enforcing discipline we call transformational discipline. That's a vastly different approach to most ways that coaches discipline within sporting teams. We try to establish standards, support standards, enforce standards is really the
What is that?
framework.
Yeah, give me a little bit on that. I like that, the
Yeah.
transformative leadership, model.
Transformational discipline.
Yeah, discipline, transformational discipline. Help me understand that, because this could work for parents with their kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's based a lot on the work of Dr. Jane Nelson from Positive Discipline, who's worked with teachers and parents. And me and my wife have actually years ago hired a positive discipline coach to work with us on our disciplining. Transformational discipline is aimed at a long-term growth and impact of the individual. It's not reliant on short-term, goals of just getting compliance and behavior change. And so often when we come with discipline, whether it's a parenting or coaching, the goal is to get them to obey, to do what we ask them to do. When you think about transformational discipline, the goal is, okay, we want behavior change, but we also want to nurture the relationship. And we also want to grow their character. You could change behavior, but it doesn't mean we're changing habits, changing character. So transformational discipline relies more on logical consequences. Logical consequences can be broken into two main ones that I teach with coaches: progressive and restorative. Progressive, oftentimes it's the opposite of what we would think. If a player's not working hard, we just have them do the rep again. That doesn't seem to elicit a response. Then we go, okay, you need to step out of the drill. So we're not yelling, we're not screaming, we're not making them run. We're just saying, hey, step off. You lost the opportunity to get better in this drill. We'll see you in the next drill. Right. And so you might do that a few times. And a few times a year, a coach might actually say, hey, you know what? The old John Wooden, sorry, but you lost the opportunity to get better. We'll see you tomorrow. And so it's about a loss. Practice is a privilege, an opportunity to get better. So we use that through progressive consequences. We use restorative consequences, which are focused on repairing ruptures or solution-based approaches to fixing issues. We also talk about natural consequences a lot to help athletes understand why we need logical consequences. Because if we don't correct behavior, if we don't address this, if we don't hold you accountable, then we will not become the team we want to be. We will not have the success we want, and you will not become the person that you want to be. So that's kind of a bit of the model for it. All that's on the back of, we've established the standards, how we want to do things. We've established a vision and a goal. And then we've also established the consequences. So athletes aren't surprised by this. They understand why we do it this way and how it's all linked to, they have a choice. They can choose to work hard or choose to have a good attitude. They could choose to not do that.
And what's a story or even the data that you have that this works, like that you've seen it at work time and time again?
It's an amazing thing. I would say over 90% of the time, a coach tells me that they've asked a player to step off out of practice. It's got to that point. The player comes back and apologizes immediately and takes complete ownership, which does not happen when we yell, scream, and kick them out.
For sure,
right. So that's one. I mean, we just have countless stories that I talk about in the book through my own experience, where players that we weren't reaching before with the fear-based approach to discipline, we're actually able to get through to them, not just to change behavior, but to change their mindset. They go from one of entitlement, I have to be here, they're lucky to have me here, to I get to be here. This is a get to, right? And I get to come out here and work hard. And so just across the board, the coaches that do this effectively transform their culture, not just transform behavior. They transform the culture. The players are more intrinsically motivated because it's a get to, not a got to.
Yeah. So on a lot of my teams, like I have kids that have been homeless. I have other kids that come from fractured families, other kids that their dads or moms have killed themselves, and you're dealing with like some really, which every team I would say is dealing with this, just like in a family or in a business. You've got, all of that going on within the employees or within your family structure. Like, how do you incorporate the reality of everyday life within team culture?
Yes. Are you talking about from a discipline standpoint or just from a
Yeah,
culture
just
standpoint?
from your model, like what works, like what's helpful as you're seeing. Hey, because I've just seen sports become. I got into sports because it's like the belly of the beast, from my
Mhm.
perspective. Like, look, it's just a natural reality that people invest a lot of time. And I believe that your God, everybody has a God. It could be yourself, it could be, Jesus Christ, it could be, money. But whatever you spend the most time with and think about the most, that's your God, period. That's your God.
Mhm.
Whatever you think about the most and spend the most time with is your God. So I want to get in an arena where sports is a lot of people's God so that I could go, hey, how can I walk with you and be there for you, encourage you, care for you, love you, and get to your goals, your dreams, so you know that life's more than just sports. Life's about family, life's about
Mhm.
faith, life's about having fun, the
Mhm.
3 F's. So for you and your model, everybody's got a different model. You'd be like, that's dumb. I don't believe what Justin's saying. Or yeah, maybe you are, but how do you see? Because I don't see sports as the answer. I see relationships as the answer. And then in those relationships gets you to purpose. And then in that purpose, it gets you to your mission in life. And in that mission in life, then hopefully we can spend eternity together one day. So what's your thoughts from your perspective of, hey man, like this is how I would help a coach to help these kids. Cause I see
Mhm.
it's just about trophies. I mean, I got all these trophies. I give my trophies away now. Like when we win a tournament, I'm just like, if a kid who didn't play much works hard in practice, I'm like, hey, this is your trophy, man. Take it, man. So
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things I talk about in the book is that all transformation comes by way of a relationship. So relationship is the foundation. But before I can help others, I have to make sure I'm taking care of myself. And so it's having a strong why, a strong philosophy is at the core of it, but also the personal disciplines in your life so that you can show up living on mission and living according to your values. So it all starts with the core, the center of it is us as a leader, not just having a philosophy, but having the disciplines and the practices in our life to show up living on mission in alignment with our values.
what are those
Out
major disciplines for somebody that you would teach them? What would be those major disciplines?
Everyone's going to have different ones. Obviously, some of the big ones are we eating right? Are we sleeping right? Are we reading? Are we journaling? Are we getting coaching, mentorship? Who's in our circle? Who are we putting ourselves around? What are people we're surrounding ourselves with? So it's taking care of ourselves. It's the connection piece. That's what I would say.
More like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs type of structure of if you understand those, getting to the being able
Yeah.
to get yourself to the self actualization to be able to think about higher things because you're taking care of your body, you're taking care of your
Yeah.
security, your family. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So from that, I'm able to, once I'm, it's not doing all those things perfectly or all the time. A coach's life is very difficult, but it's trying to do some of those things consistently with some consistency. From that, it helps to build a foundation for me to establish, support, and force the culture. Culture is measured by two things for me: relationships and standards or behaviors. So, how strong are the relationships and how strong or high are the standards? You cannot have high standards without strong relationships. You cannot call people up without a relationship. At the same time, I don't have a really strong relationship if I don't call you up to a high standard, right? And so those things work in conjunction. So how do we drive standards and relationships? Well, we establish the standards and we establish the relationships. So onboarding programs, one-on-ones with players, just getting to know them, learning about their life and their story. That's the starting point. And then you move into more things around what's important to them, what are their goals, what's their visions, what are their greatest aspirations for their life. From there, we're able to build out development plans for every individual in our organization. And those development plans we revisit through consistent conversations. Now we're in the support piece. How do you support culture? How do you support the standards and relationships through continuous one-on-ones, following up, coaching people, developing the people. And so that comes back to, once again, it's not me sitting down and having conversations for 30 minutes where I'm telling you a lot of things about what you need to do differently. It's me asking great questions, having great conversations where I'm supporting you. And then when we come to that enforced piece, we're actually, this piece gets so easy because we have the relationship. We also have a clear idea of what's really important. So when we have to correct, we've already have a connection. So we connect before you correct. And then when you correct, you just connect back to what we said was important. Well, you said you wanted this. You said this was your goal. You said you wanted to achieve these things. You said you want to be this type of teammate, this type of person. So we're just stepping in and we are connecting it back to their goals. And then their correction is better received. But it all starts with relationship. That's that. And to be effective in a relationship, we have to be working on ourselves.
Yeah. And I'm all about that, so like, I'm all about helping them to understand that their highest goal, right? Their highest goal that they want to achieve, I've got to help them to achieve that. And the only way to do that is through correction. And the only way you can correct them is if you care about the dignity of who they are. So we're on page now. Okay, so now, how do we deal with this question? I got a tough question for you. The standards of life, right? Are there true standards for every team and every person across the board? Or is it just everybody makes their own standards? Would you say, so for me, truth is love, right? Isn't a feeling, it's an action. Therefore, love is being kind. Love is being patient. Love is not being jealous, not talking junk about others. Love's not blaming your team, right? It's building up your team. So what if somebody said something? We live in a society right now, JP, where people are like, everybody's all on different avenues of what's right, what's wrong. How do you deal with that? And how do you get to truth when everybody's truth can be on different levels? It's just listening to them and walking with them and guiding them, kind of like Jamie did, your encouragement coach, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, a few things. Do we want to be right or do we want to be effective? And so sometimes when it comes down to being effective, to being successful, helping people, you have to, hold your truth lightly and at the end of the day, walk with people, like you said. I think every coach needs, you could do standards in two ways in a team. One is you got to know your non-negotiables. What are things you're never willing to compromise? What do you need
give me
to be?
Some examples. Give me some examples of non-negotiable, the best ones you've heard.
You're going to laugh at these because they're not probably what anybody would think.
I can't wait. I want to laugh.
What do I need to be successful as a coach? What I cannot negotiate on? I need athletes that will show up on time, listen, not complain. After that, I can work. I can meet you where you're at. And that's not far off of what John Wooden's were. They were be neat and clean, be on time, never criticize the teammate, right? And
then he could get them to competitive greatness through his models.
Yeah, you just need a few things there. And from there, you might sit down and you might co-create some standards as a team and say, hey, what type of team do we want to be? What type of experience do we want? What do we want to achieve? Okay, what do we need to do day in and day out to get there? What can we not tolerate to be able to create that experience?
So basically, JP is Keanu Reeves in Hardball. Basically, did you ever see the movie Hardball? Mm-hmm. You're Keanu Reeves. You just got to show up, man. Let's just show up. It's true, though. I agree with that, because did you know there's only one kid that I've ever had to say, you're like 100% done with my team, but the only way you can stay on my team is you can show up. You have to show up and meet me for lunch twice a month if you want to get back on the team. And he ended up doing it. But he was such a distraction in practice. He wasn't listening. He was just aggravating everybody. So I think that's like life too, though, right? If you show up, say that. So you show up, you listen, and what's the third one?
Don't complain. I just think complaining. But complaining is really around, take responsibility. Take responsibility for what you have. And that means you have an opportunity. You have the privilege. you have things to be grateful for, but you also have responsibility to certain standards in your life, like to certain to other people, and we're sitting complaining we can't take responsibility because we're not grateful, and it's infectious, and it just gets all into this blame victim mentality, and we got to move past that. And so when you just stop complaining, good things happen. Not all the time do you move to a place of gratitude, but by just stop complaining, change happens.
And I like that. I think that can work with a family too, right? That can work with a family. It can work in a company at all. Give me some more of your insights on what's one of the teams that you've impacted that you're like, man, this is a success story. I want to hear about one of your success stories. I'm sure you failed, 10 to 100 times like we all have. But I like hearing encouragement is when you can see success and say, oh, thanks be to God.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to share a more recent one, just working with the head coach at Dave Passmore at the USA Women's Field Hockey. USA Women's Field Hockey has really struggled the last 10 years, not qualifying for Olympics. When Dave took over, he did an amazing job. He kind of reached out to me halfway through my journey. He had done a lot through my book, The Culture System, to build the culture, over a year and a half ago, and to reset the culture of USA Women's Field Hockey, landing with understanding himself, building the team's core values. And, it's been an amazing working with Dave, and then just coming in and doing some consulting with the team. And what they've done is just amazing. They came second in the Pan Am Games, which if they'd gone first, they would have qualified for the Olympics. So they weren't qualified. They're 18th, and they went to India, and they won like 5 games straight. Beat Japan, I think, in the second to last game to qualify for the Olympics here in Paris.
Wow.
So just an amazing turnaround, but it all came down to culture. And
what were the significant differences? What would coach say if I sat him down? What would he say was the big difference between them, 2 or 3 years ago and them now?
He probably would just state his core values of the program, which the players were part of selecting. Joy is one of them. Intensity and
I love that. Come on. Let's get some joy and some intensity.
Yeah. So if you go watch them, you'll just see players right before games dancing. There's just so much joy. They're grateful for the opportunity to be there, and there's a connection in the relationships. So there's a strong commitment. There's a strong commitment to the program. So it all comes back to their core values, and just the fact that they're not just words on a wall. It's how they relentlessly revisit those daily for how they want to show up.
Yeah, and Dan Dwyer, who has the 6 areas, to design your life, to have goals in your life, it's very important. He says you have to have those 3 or 4 values that you narrow down to that you're really going to focus on. That are going to, like you shared, JP. Like I shared, and I think everyone needs to do that for their family. Everybody needs to do that for themselves personally and for their business. But why do you think business, JP? Why do you think business and what we do in the American culture, I can't speak for other cultures, why do you think that happens first before us really thinking about our own personal mission statement or our family's mission statement? Like my family has a mission statement, to be grateful, to love Jesus first and others no matter what. And my mission statement is to be energetic, to promote empathy and compassion so that every single person in the world knows they're amazing. That's my dream, that my life, that's what I'll live so much that there's not one person that when they're not around, they're not walking out going, man, I can do anything. I can do the impossible. So why do you think that happens in America, JP? What's going on from your perspective that we focus more on what we do than who we are?
I think it comes down to putting so much of our self-worth, our value, in what other people are thinking. And even then we're wrong, because people aren't thinking about us as much as we like to think they're thinking about us. Exactly. And nobody cares if we have 100. Nobody really cares if we have 1 million followers or 10 followers on Instagram. They care about the type of person we are. but our brains, the wiring in those trick us, they fool us, they create these mind traps where we don't see things as they really are. We see things as we are, and we operate from this fear of what other people think. And so that just pushes us to focus more on the external, the things that we do, and being great at those things so that we can win the approval, the validation of others.
Yeah, and I think it's something I call it, I think rejection for me is the greatest form of growth. Like when we really can internalize rejection, like even when we make a mistake and we feel or we are rejected because we messed up, that's the greatest growth we can have sometimes. Or when somebody really does hurt us and mock us, that when we can forgive them, that rejection can produce an energy like no other. Or when one of our family members is rejected, right? And we see that, we know that, and we have to be okay because we can't control them, but we have to walk with them and say, hey, I want to journey with you in that rejection. Or when something just horrible, horrific happens, I really like to internalize that rejection. And as I internalize it with a spirit of gratitude for my own life, the energy that I have in that forgiveness, that power that comes from that, it gives me a sense of confidence I've never had in my life ever before. But I think most people, they take rejection as like you said, sometimes they're thinking about things that aren't even true and they're just trickling it on their mind. And it's just, more of a narcissistic or just a me thinking. So how do you deal with rejection, and what are some forms that have helped you in your journey?
For me, the rejection is recognizing that it's just part of the process for growth, not internalizing it to so much to um, who I am or what I'm about in that standpoint. Just recognizing this is part of the process. It's just that rejection is just remaining open and curious, willing to learn and find the opportunity for growth in it. I mean, I think that's it. And I'm very okay. What's next? How can I learn from this? And just trying to keep that mindset. So I think handling that type of rejection is all where it comes down to mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. It's being able to the discipline of your mind, the renewing of your mind will be able to get the truth in your heart to be able to be solid and strong. So how have you seen with coaches in particular, how have you seen what's been the transformation in coaching over the years? Do you think we're turning a pendulum where things are changing from a fear-based to a relational trust-based and a vision across the board? What are your percentages of coaches you see in the culture? And how do you see it? And is it changing, or are we still, this is going to be an uphill climb here?
Probably not the best person to ask because, the weird thing about me is I follow my coaches' teams,
Yeah, that's it.
but I don't follow anybody else. I don't watch sports. I don't watch TV.
Yeah,
I,
so you're
I
not like
follow
me at an AAU tournament dealing with,
no.
50 coaches who are swearing at their kids saying you're a loser. You're
Yeah,
like,
no.
oh my God,
So
what are we
I
doing?
probably don't have great perspective on it. I do know that I'm very, very fortunate to work with some amazing coaches who have gone on this journey and just not just transformed their leadership, but it's transformed the way they teach, the way they lead it, their businesses, and the way they parent. And it's really, really powerful. So don't know if I could say it at a certain percentage, or
Yeah,
are
yeah, for
things
sure.
moving the right direction? I wouldn't. I can't tell you.
Come on, JP. We need you to get it moving in the right. You're the key to this. You're going to be the key to this in your little way. You're going to do unbelievable work because we need guys like you out there changing the pendulum. Because I just see there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of um, discouragement, there's
Mhm.
a lot of hatred out there. I mean, it's wild. I mean, every three tournaments I'll go to, JP, every three tournaments I'll go to, there's some fight or violence or a shooting or something. And so, like what you're doing, I know you might only see your teams and you might work on maybe higher level teams, but know that we need whatever coaches you're working with. We need them to devise a plan on how to get it to the young kids. Because I work with kids that, sure, I have a couple D2 JUCOs, and I got one D1 kid, and a couple D3 kids from my last team. But half of my team, they're not going to play college basketball. Which even half is a good number because only 3% play college basketball. So my big thing is, how are we going to change that pendulum? And I think, like you said, it starts with ourselves. So what's the most encouraging thing in your life right now that you can share about that just motivates you and builds you up?
Headed into 10 years of marriage, and it has gotten better. It's better than it's ever been. And just to look at my kids that are 8, 6, and 3, and just to see the what we're creating there, and know that that's the most important, some of the most important work, if not the most important work that I have. It's great to impact coaches. It's great to do the work that I'm doing in sports and even impact leaders. I mean, I work with leaders at Chick-fil-A and other small businesses and some other Fortune 500 companies. I do some of the coaching there, and it's great to see. But I really think the most encouraging thing is the transformation in my own family and in the work with my clients, the transformation in their lives. I had a coach, really high-level high school basketball coach, just before this, got off a call with him, and we weren't talking about how to make improvements. Maybe for 15, 20 minutes, we were talking about how to, okay, what did we learn from the season? But then it was also like, hey, I'm just really diving in with my kids now, and then I'm going to spend, I'm going away with my wife, and how can we sit down and really set out a plan for our family, what we want to be about, and how we want to live in this world, and what my relationship is going to be with coaching as regards to the family. So I think that the most important jobs we have are in the home. And so for me to be able to help leaders to also do work in that area, and my own, and also me doing that work as well, I think that's the most encouraging thing.
Well, I thank you for bringing it up, because in the docuseries coming out, I share with the boy, I don't care if you play college basketball. I care that one day I'm going to go to your house. I'm going to say, look at your kids, look at your wife. Oh my goodness, look at the unbelievable job you've done. I'm so proud of you. That will make coach excited for life. What are things you're doing with your wife right now that are working for other people to say, hey, check this out? Like, I have different things I do. Of course, smooching is always helpful, but more than just smooching, like, is there anything helpful for you that works with your wife?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we do is that we have intentional conversations periodically. We've sat down, we've created core values for our family. We have conversations around how we're doing on that. We might listen to, like, we went away just last weekend, first night away in like a year. We got a babysitter finally, and we got away, and we listened to a podcast around two couples talking about money and their relationship with it, and we just had a conversation around it, and just said, hey, what's our relationship with money, and are we using it as a tool, or is it using us? And we just reflect. So I think it really comes down to the best thing is intentional conversations with great questions, and that help us to really check in on, sometimes it's planning, sometimes it's the future, and sometimes we're just checking in, like, what is going really well, what are we grateful for right now, and just trying to celebrate life.
I love that. And what are I know I asked you your 4 values for you personally. What are the 4 values of your family?
They're very closely tied, right?
Okay.
So joy is being one of them, which I would say for me personally, it was, gratitude
Yeah.
is the
That's
source of all joy.
one of
But with
ours. Yeah.
joy, love is the other one, is the second one, because at the end of the day, it's one of my personal values as well. It's something my wife and I have connected on since we first started dating. We read the book The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck, and then there he talks about how love is a choice, it's an act of the will, and what's in our wedding rings, right? Love is an act of the will. So joy, love, and growth, right? Which I would say curiosity is the source of so much growth. So it's once again tied to my personal values, but we just want to be growth orientated. And that's what attracted me most to my wife, was just the fact that she was, no matter where we were, what was going on, we were going to grow from it. And we're committed to growth every day. So those are our big 3.
Yeah, I had recently on Bill Ekstrom, who talks about growth as, he talks about growth as being uncomfortable. He says the only way you grow is being uncomfortable. What are your thoughts on that? Do you work alongside his vision for that?
I disagree. I think you can grow. I'm growing, and I wouldn't say I'm super uncomfortable. I
Okay.
think comfortable moments provide greater, sometimes our best opportunities for growth.
Yep.
But I'm pretty comfortable, day here today, and I think I'm still
And you're still growing. You're still
I'm
growing.
still growing. I'm still learning. I mean, maybe, yeah, like you go to the gym, you get uncomfortable, but maybe I'm just comfortable being uncomfortable. I don't know.
JP, I think you are. I think you are. You had that, but I think that's a good point though. Like, because at the gym, the uncomfortable is if you work out and you're just chilling. You gotta, that to grow. I work out all the time, and like to be able to grow, you gotta
Yeah,
stretch your
yeah.
muscles so much it hurts. It's aggravating.
My wife and I went. We went to the sauna. We had great conversations. Went out for a nice dinner. I think we grew as a couple that night. It wasn't
Good,
uncomfortable at all. So
good. All right, hey. My dad always taught. I'm Italian, right? So he always said, look, he always goes, if it's not tough and it doesn't hurt, it doesn't count. So it's a little more old school. So but I want to ask you the question. I'm just wondering, thinking about
yeah.
growth, but I can tell you I'm growing here. And what do you think for people that are listening to this? What is a takeaway they can have? Like, really, I know number one, everyone, if you don't have values that you're really thinking about, right? If you're
Mhm.
really discussing with your wife, your kids, what are our values of our family? What are we going to stick to, as well as with our teams? I mean, I got that out of today. And I also got out so much of how much culture matters. But for you, what are you hoping when people hear about what you do, with the culture system, what you're doing with culture consulting? What do you hope they get out of it most of all?
I hope, if anything, people might say, "Man, that guy's really intentional." It's not about exactly the things that you do, whether you meditate or you have which values you pick or which activities you do with your team or how you build a culture. It's that you understand who you are, what you're trying to build, why you're doing it, and then your intentionality is taking and aligning your commitments, your actions, your behaviors with that. And I think that to do that, you have to be intentional. You have to be thoughtful. You have to you have to keep coming back to it. It's a daily thing. It's not once a moment, once a year thing. It's a daily thing. And so to be able to do that, there's a lot of things that help you to do that, but you got to draw, presence, coaching, mentorship, all those little things. But my big encouragement would just be intentionality, intentionality. That's the key.
And who has been, and since intentionality is what you're all about, who's been the most encouraging person in your life, like that's really impacted your life more? I'm sure you have 10 or 20, but who are you thinking about that's really spoken to you personally and really, really helped you? That's one of the most encouraging people in your life. For me, it's like this guy, Ken Blanchard. He meets with me 2, 3 times a year, and he just spends time with me, and he doesn't have to. He wants to. I got another guy, Danny Buggs, first black man to go to a white school in the state of Georgia. But guess what? He is one of the most inspirational guys I know. But he always, if I call him, he'll call me right back. He's always there to listen to me, encourage me, build me up. My wife, of course, bring her up. I mean, she's the most precious person because she's present to me, even in my faults and failures. She's present, and we can walk together. Who are the most encouraging people in your life?
Definitely my wife. When I started on this journey 7, 8 years ago, she was probably the one person that actually believed in me. I've got a great best friend who lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. We built our relationship back in high school, playing basketball and working out together in sweaty, hot, non-air conditioning gyms in Columbia, South Carolina. Great relationship there. Fortunate to have a really good uncle that just has encouraged me. And just, like you said, love spending time with me. Jack Easterby, character coach, culture coach of the New England Patriots. Then he worked at the Houston Texans for a while, and he's been a guy. He was my leadership coach when I was playing basketball at the University of South Carolina. One of those people, just when you're with him, you're the only thing that he's just fully present, right? So, yeah, those would be some of my favorites.
Yeah, and okay, God forbid, but today's the last day on the earth. What would you like to share with your family, your friends, like of what's most important?
Um, I think it'd probably be what I'm sharing every day with them. I knew it was the last day, I just come back to the same things. I love them. I tell them I love them. I tell them I love them for who they are. It's not about, I explicitly tell my 6-year-old and my 8-year-old, right? I really like these things about you, but I love you. And it doesn't, it's nothing tied to the good things you did today or the bad things you did. It's just, and it's just trying to, just that show them that love, not just tell them that love by being present. And so it was my last day. I would really nail being present. I probably wouldn't text anybody back. I wouldn't be on my phone.
Yeah, exactly. And JP, you are authentic, and you know what? You've worked hard. I just want to encourage you. You're working hard, man. Not just like with work, but you're working hard in your family life. You're working hard, with your kids. You're working hard with your teams because you care about them. And I sense that. And I want to thank you for that. I want to, I'm sure people thank you who know you. You don't know me as well. We're getting to know each other. And it was great to have you on this podcast. But if I were to say something to you, I just want to thank you. Thank you for caring about people more than caring about what they do. Because that's what people are lonely right now. They need a guy like you in their life to walk with them, to care for them, and build them up. And your core principles are going to change the world around you. And that's inspiring to me. So I just thank you for your time. And I hope everybody check out the Culture System, get that groundbreaking book, reach out. Look, I'm about reaching out, crossing lines, getting every type of person to teach me how to be more encouraging. You've done that, JP. We got to get out there and teach the world how to be the most encouraging people on the planet. That's the goal. Could you imagine if everybody woke up and every day said, I'm just going to encourage the heck out of this world, encourage them with all my heart and soul. So thank you for encouraging people today, JP.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, man.
All right. I'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Encouragement Conquers All podcast with Justin Fatica. Make sure to subscribe and follow to be notified when the newest episodes of the podcast go live. You can find contact information and important links in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.